Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into the science program at Pioneer Academy. We really want to understand what it looks and feels like to be a student there. What's that journey like from your first day in a lab all the way to competing on a national stage?
It seems like everything they do really boils down to this one central question. How do you take an idea you read about in a book and turn it into something real, something you can actually see and touch? This question, right here, seems to be the engine behind their entire approach to teaching science.
And their answer? Well, it's a whole new approach, and it's built on a pretty simple, but honestly, a really powerful idea. Learning is doing. This means students aren't just sitting there, memorizing facts for a test. They are active participants in science from day one. So, how exactly do they make that hands-on experience happen? Well, it all starts with building a super strong foundation. Let's take a look at the core science journey that every single student embarks on. Okay, so the foundation is built on the big three, right? Biology, chemistry, and physics. But what's really interesting here is the range. You can go from college prep all the way to AP. What that means is it doesn't matter if you're just dipping your toes in or if you're ready for a serious college-level challenge. There's a path laid out just for you. But that core stuff, that's just the launch pad. The program then opens up with a whole bunch of different elective classes. And this is where you, as a student, really get to follow your own curiosity and start to forge your own unique path in science. So, you've got your core classes, you've got your electives. But knowing what you'll study, that's only half the story. The part that's really fascinating is how you learn it. That jump from just theory to actual hands-on practice. This quote right here, this is pretty much the heart of their entire method. There's no waiting around. You don't learn a theory on Monday and then maybe see it in a lab a week later. Nope. It's an immediate cycle. You learn it, and then you walk down the hall and you do it right away. And this whole process follows this really cool three-step learning cycle. First up, you've got the actual in-lab, hands-on experiment. Then that's backed up by virtual experimentation, which is awesome because it lets you explore things that might be too dangerous or just too complex to do in a school lab. And the final critical piece, you have to communicate what you found by writing a report. It's this perfect loop: do, simulate, and then explain. And of course, learning this way totally changes how you're graded. Your grade isn't just about what you can spit back out on a written test. It's a true reflection of what you can actually do with that knowledge. Your performance in the lab, how well you write your reports, that's all weighed just as heavily as the test scores. It really values the practical skills. But okay, you've done the experiment, you've written the report, but the journey doesn't stop there. Not even close. The next step is all about showcasing those skills, taking everything you've learned and pouring it into these big, year-long projects. And get this, these projects aren't just for your teacher to see. You actually get to choose how you share your discoveries, and each option builds a totally different but equally important skill. You can get up in front of a live audience during big school events like STEAM Week, which is great for your public speaking, or you can go digital, build your own website, and share your findings with basically anyone in the world. So, after you've built all these skills in the lab and you've showcased them in your projects, there's one final frontier for anyone who really wants to push their limits: competing with the best. This is where you can take what you've learned and see how it stacks up on a national level. So what does that competition look like? Well, take the Science Olympiad. A team is made up of just 15 students. But what's really amazing is that these teams are student-managed. That means you're not just a competitor, you're a leader. You're responsible for strategy, for preparation, the whole shebang. And we're not talking about your local science fair here. Pioneer teams are playing in the big leagues. They're going to these super prestigious invitationals hosted by some of the best universities out there: Princeton, Columbia, UPenn. I mean, what an incredible stage to go and test your skills. And as you can see, the opportunities don't just stop with those big invitationals. There's a whole spectrum of ways to compete, from the state science Olympiad to competitions just for chemistry, and even project-based Olympiads that go international. There are so many ways to get in the game.
And on top of all that, the experience just keeps going. Students can join NSTEM, that's the National Honor Society for STEM, and they get to go on these really cool lab visits that show you exactly how the science you're learning in class is being used out in the real world right now.
Which, it brings us all the way back to where we started. If a science education is really an experiment in itself, one that mixes a strong foundation with hands-on practice, public presentations, and elite competition, then the only question left to ask is the one for you. What will you discover?